Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. So here is my review for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, and yeah, I just gotta say this premiere here was probably one of the best premieres I've seen in a very long time. I do have to warn you that this will contain spoilers, so like for sure this will contain spoilers for the episode. There's sort of no point in me doing non-spoiler reviews since the episode is premiering in just like a few hours from now, right? And just a quick note on that, I really do like the fact that AMC is releasing these episodes on Sundays instead of Thursdays, and that they're actually releasing on the same exact day, because, you know, with the final season, it was a week early. With Dead City, it was 3 days early. I even think before the final season, it was a few days early, but this is like the first time with AMC Plus where they're releasing it on the same day. And to be honest, it feels really amazing. Honestly, it is so exciting. Like the fact that everyone is going to be watching today, everyone's going to be watching the episode. If you haven't watched it yet, you'll be watching it in just a few hours from now. Like, to me, that is just absolutely amazing. It's just the way The Walking Dead used to be. I hope this continues going forward. I do believe they've actually confirmed that Fear the Walking Dead will be the same. So I'm very excited about that. But yeah, definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. I will be talking about the ending scene in a separate video. Also the trailer as well, because there was a general trailer for what to expect. They confirmed a lot of, experiments and research and all that. And I do think there are for sure connections with the Civic Republic. Also, there's a rumor right now that there may be a Rick and Michonne teaser released tonight. So tonight, if that teaser actually does drop, I will do a video. So definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this, because there's going to be a lot. Like, if they do the same thing with Daryl Dixon that they did with Dead City, then we should be getting a Rick and Michonne teaser every single week. Like, next Sunday, we'll get another one. I'm assuming that the teaser tonight is going to be like 10 to 15 seconds, and there'll be like new footage or like new things here and there, basically. Because I know with Daryl Dixon, it was like just a few random shots, almost similar to the one that we got at Comic-Con. Like, just something like that, very short, just sort of teasing the next show. And I do think it's going to build up to like the end of November, where we do get the full trailer for Rick and Michonne. So the next however many Sundays, I guess 12 Sundays now, are going to be really exciting. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, but let's talk about episode 1. Now, I've talked about the opening minutes before, so I'm not going to really get into that too much here. Obviously, I think the explanation there, I mean, by the end of episode 1, we sort of got a general explanation as to why Daryl ended up in France. I am sort of really confused on some aspects to it, but they do confirm that there are ships coming out of this one place constantly. There's a port here, and there's ships going back and forth. Daryl was obviously in America, so this ship came from America. And I mean, they have zombies on there that are literally being experimented on, and there's research being done. So why do they have those zombies, or sorry, walkers? Why do they have those walkers, and why are they coming from America? Or was there research from America? Like, this is where that post-credit scene of World Beyond, it gets really interesting, because that has CRM connections, right? So maybe that's why Daryl was on that ship, because there was actual connections there, or he was actually getting sort of close to Rick. I literally did a video on this like in the last week, and it was more of a theory, but like the ending scene here actually kind of confirms almost all of it. So it is really interesting, I'll say that. But yeah, so the opening minutes I thought were really great. The intro for the show I really love. The song, like the music and everything, I thought worked really well. I'm really happy that they're doing this. I think this is exactly what they need to do. This makes it feel like it's its own show. You know what I mean? Like, Fear the Walking Dead, World Beyond, Tales of the Walking Dead never had an intro like that, never had music, anything. Like, it was just sort of like a sound effect and like this very small thing, and it wasn't this constant thing. It just never felt like a real show. It really didn't. And Dead City, you know, the intro I really loved. Daryl Dixon, I really love this intro as well. So where we do start off, we do see Daryl sort of, you know, he continues walking, and he's obviously hurt from that burner, and he notices that somebody is watching him, but he just doesn't really care. Like, he just kind of continues walking like, oh, whatever. And I kind of found that funny. Like, I was wondering, like, at this point, I guess he's just not concerned. Like, he doesn't really care if someone's watching him, because I guess they're not really of importance to him unless he was like threatened in some way. But that person seemed like they were just kind of watching, so he was like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave. Like, he's just so like on his own and just really keeping to himself. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, he just kind of kept ignoring Isabel, and the only reason why he got into trouble was because he sort of ran into, I guess, Maribel and a man, and I didn't actually catch his name, but yeah, he does help them out. And honestly, like, they kind of seemed a little a little sketchy at first, but then all of a sudden it seemed like they were actually good people. I was like, okay, so he's actually helping them out, because we do have two guys come over, and immediately I knew that they were with Caudron just because of the vehicle and all that, and they just sort of had that vibe about them. I was like, hey, they're in trouble. And Daryl actually, well, he almost actually dies. Actually, there's a scene there where one of the guys actually shoots at Daryl, and I thought, like, honestly, when you're watching this scene, it almost looks like he literally shoots Daryl, but no, he shoots the other guy, and Daryl, he's just holding his ear afterwards, because, I mean, obviously, like, that sound, like a gunshot sound, that's gonna destroy your ears, right? So, yeah, he helped them out, but then all of a sudden, he gets knocked out, so it was like, okay, you really can't trust anybody, but thankfully, the person that was watching him, who we later learned to be Isabel, was actually there, and Isabel does save him. And then we get into this whole thing where we do see the Abbey for the first time, and it's a very, very creepy vibe. Like, the music playing here in this scene, it creates this really eerie, really creepy tone. The drums and everything, you have like these chants and stuff like that. Like, it really builds up this very creepy atmosphere. And immediately at this point, I was like, okay, this is really, really interesting. Just the vibe that they're setting up here. This show just immediately felt like it was an elite show. Like, it just immediately at that point, I was like, okay, the budget here is really amazing. They're really going into different areas here, and I really do like where they're going here. So we do see a bunch of scenes of Daryl, his wound got cauterized. Isabel actually explains afterwards that it's going to prevent the spread. So it really makes it seem like Daryl was actually going to turn. And I talked about this, I guess, after the trailer was released. Like, I was wondering if the burner, or at least not the trailer, but when the opening minutes were released, I was wondering if when the burners touch you, if that infection, if it's the same thing, if it'll actually spread. And it turns out that's exactly what was going to happen. Daryl was likely going to turn, but thankfully Isabel actually saved his life, right? Really crazy. But then we learn a lot more about the Abbey. We learn that this place here is a place of people of all faiths, and they all believe that humanity is being put to the test, and they all sort of have to come together. And there was also sort of a Merle mention. We don't hear the name Merle, but Isabel asked Daryl about like his background and stuff, and he mentions that he had a brother. So that was really cool. And we do see Laurent. We see Laurent actually trying to learn from Daryl. He's copying a lot of stuff that he's doing. He really does seem to believe that he's the next Messiah. Like, I know the nuns believe that. Like, we got a lot of confirmation of that in this episode. But it seems like he actually believes it himself, because I know in the trailer, there was a line mentioned where, like, I think Daryl says he needs to know how important he is or whatever. There was something like that anyways. And I actually don't think he's referencing Laurent there. Like, I think he might be referencing a different character. We'll see though. But yeah, Laurent was a really interesting character. He's definitely a very, very smart and wise character. He seems to really believe everything that he's being told. And it's one of those things where I guess if he's just sort of been raised as being told that he's sort of the next Messiah, then he's just going to overall believe it. Like, he's going to believe that he is that important. And that's just one of the things, like there was a mention later on, and we'll talk about it in a second, but there was a mention where, he drew a photo of somebody coming to, I guess, save him. And I guess he would be the messenger. And that person looked like Daryl. And it was drawn like 3 weeks prior to Daryl arriving there. So when I see something like that, I'm like, is that proof? Like, how does Daryl know that that's real? You know what I mean? And for us, the audience, is that real? Like, when you see something like that, it's like, is there something to Laurent? Like I like the fact that the show sort of puts a question mark there, like I'm actually kind of wondering, like, is there something to this here? And I really wonder, like Daryl mentions in this episode that he doesn't really believe in anything at all. And we see in the trailer that he's actually praying and stuff like that. So I do wonder if they're going to be getting into that a little bit here, and if there's going to be things that happen where Daryl starts to believe a little bit. Like, I really wonder if the show's going to go in those areas, but we'll have to wait and see. But Laurent does mention one thing that I found very interesting, and that was the fact that there was 67 million people, and he thinks there's about 200,000, maybe less or something like that. That's honestly really crazy. And it's not even that. Like, to me, that makes sense. I feel like in my head, there's only a few people left, right? But I think that the line where he says it would take 6, maybe 7 generations to really build back up to that many people, that to me really puts it into perspective what the zombie apocalypse is, right? it really just destroyed the entire world. Like, it's going to take a long, long time, you know, for things to even recover. And even at that point, I don't think things would fully recover. So it's going to take a very, very long time. Like, when the zombies showed up or walkers showed up, it really did just completely destroy the world. Caudron is terrifying. I'm just going to say that right now. Caudron is probably my favorite villain in a very, very long time. Like, I really liked the Croat. I really liked the Dama. There's characters that I liked in the Walking Dead final season. I liked Sebastian. I liked, like, Lance was a really great character, very unexpected character. I don't know, there's something about Caudron. He's my favorite villain, I would say, really since Beta. Like, Beta and Alpha were just really great characters. Honestly, Alpha as a leader was very, very menacing. Beta was just terrifying, and Caudron feels like that. And almost even more so. There's something about the actor where it's like, I saw a reference to it. Actually, somebody commented something on Twitter and mentioned that he feels like the Terminator of The Walking Dead. And that's exactly what I kind of felt watching it. I was like, this guy is terrifying. Like, you do not want to be around him at all. Daryl, at one point, though, he does see Laurent speaking to a walker, and it actually is the priest that they're all referencing. And at this point, Daryl decides, okay, he's had enough, and he's like, "There's a dead priest, and there's this creepy kid here. You know, I'm done. Like, I'm leaving." And Isabel's like, "No, you can't be done because you're the messenger. You're gonna do this, blah blah blah." And he, at this point, was just like, "I can't. Like, I really can't." You know, there used to be a kid like that in grade school, and basically he got bullied a lot, you know. And at that point, I'm just like, I was laughing because Daryl's reaction to all of this stuff, like, it does sound so crazy. It does sound insane. Daryl's laughing at that photo. Like, he's just so done at this point. He packs up and he leaves. And I was actually kind of surprised by that. He actually left. Like, Daryl actually left the Abbey. I thought it was just Daryl leaving, like, when he just generally leaves, but no, he actually left. Like, I'm done with this place. I'm not helping you guys out. I'm leaving. Thank you for the help, but I'm going. And then it sort of cuts to a scene, or actually I think this was just before, but Caudron actually runs into Maribel. And I found this scene here, you know, just really, this was a terrifying scene. And there's a lot of mirroring, I feel like, of Daryl's scene with Merle when Merle died in season 3, because we do learn that one of those two guys that came after Daryl, Maribel, and then that guy, one of them was actually Caudron's brother. And so he is led, I guess, sort of to where it happened, and then he sees his brother there, and he starts crying, and that scene really felt like when Daryl first found Merle. And it just, at this point, I was like, okay, so there's literally, like, they're making a direct connection here with Daryl and Caudron. And then later on, at the end of the episode, we learned that Daryl was actually, you know, responsible for a lot of the destruction of all of this research and stuff that was done on this ship, and that affects the main leader, and we know that leader has a connection with Caudron, right? And Caudron sort of, I guess, follows her, right? So when I see that, I'm like, okay, Daryl really messed up here in a big way. Like, Daryl really messed up here. So we do see Caudron's forces arrive to the Abbey, and then a bunch of craziness happens. The action in this scene here was honestly the best I've seen in a very, very long time. Like, just seeing the nuns fight back, just, there was so much death in this scene that I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought that the Abbey was going to be a place that they would be at for a while. And I really don't think we're going to go back to the Abbey much. Like, I think there might be some scenes in terms of flashbacks, but when Caudron's forces arrive, they really just messed up the whole entire place. I'm sure the place will be fine. There are others there, but it's just one of those things where afterwards you're like, man, like, that was just a few people. Like, if they actually went after them, like, I can't even imagine what would happen. And Isabel does save Daryl's life. So that part there, I was like, you know what, that's really cool. I think Daryl's going to remember that. And yeah, Daryl versus Caudron was just insane. Like, Caudron fighting back, I was like, yeah, I was first of all happy to see that. Actually having the two characters encounter in the first episode, I thought was so cool. I really hope Caudron survives the first season because he's already a very great character. And Daryl actually gets him back, and Caudron, you know, he makes an escape. He actually does get away. And at this point, Daryl agrees to help Isabel and is like, you know what, I will help you out. And you know, that's sort of where they're going here. And it's interesting overall because we do learn at the end that where they're going, you know, I guess they're going to Paris, but they also want to go to that port that's nearby in Le Havre or something. I'm probably saying that wrong, but they want to go there. And Janae, I think, or Jeanette, the leader of the villain group here, is there and has connections here. And we learn in the episode from Isabel, I believe, that there's a rumor or there's sort of whatever that there's ships going in and out of that place, right? And obviously they don't know, but they heard that, and then all of a sudden we see the scene at the end, and there's confirmation that, yeah, there is a massive ship here that came from America. Daryl was on that ship. There was a bunch of, I guess, explosions, something bad happened, and Daryl ended up in the water at some point, but it was near France. So Daryl knew where he was going. So he knew that he was going near France. And yeah, that's where I find it very, very interesting. And so I do wonder how much Daryl knows of all of that, but they are going there, but there's connections with the villains of the group. So they're going straight into danger, basically, right? So yeah, and the villain, I don't know what her name is exactly, Janae or Jeanette, but she actually seems really, really cool as a villain. I'm really excited to just get to know more about her. It's cool to think that Daryl actually messed up their research. Like, it's literally him that's responsible for it. Like, to me, I was so surprised hearing that. So yeah, overall, I think this episode was just, again, I said it on Twitter, 10 out of 10. Like, there's not a single thing I could really say bad about this episode. There's not a single issue I have. Like, everything in terms of the dialogue, the music, the pacing of the episode, honestly, it's a 60-minute premiere, or just under 60 minutes, and perfectly well paced. Everything in here, I can't even believe how much they got done and how much they set up here in this episode. There was so much action. I think it really set up the show really well, and I'm so excited for episode 2. I really can't wait until next Sunday. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Again, I will be posting a video very soon on the ending scene, and then a video on the general trailer, so stay tuned for that. And then obviously, if there is a Ricky Michonne teaser later on tonight, I will do a video tonight on that. So yeah, so much to talk about here. There's gonna be a lot to talk about all week, so post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.